Welcome back to our Aztec Calendar Stone painting. In our last demonstration, we put the black glue on top of our Aztec Calendar Stone drawing and talked about how that would keep the watercolors from mixing together as we painted. During our PowerPoint, we talked about how some scholars think that the calendar stone might have been painted, or that somewhere Aztec culture used ones that were painted. So what we're going to do is we're going to paint ours. We're going to be kind of loose with it and not make it exactly realistic. We're going to use warm and cool colors. So you can kind of see here how I used warm color red in the background and then cool color triangles to kind of go against that, or contrast against that. Then I've got my warm color on the outside ring with the cool color triangles. Then I've got my warm color inside the ring and the cool colors in the triangles and the squares. And then the center one, I kind of used brown and some just more naturalistic colors. So we're going to be using a combination of warm and cool colors and trying to play those two off each other to create a little bit of contrast, okay? So if we take our painting, I set it aside, we should have a picture that looks something like this. Of course, your name should be back on the back. Make sure you've got your name on the back before we get started. You should have these things: paintbrush, watercolor set, little bitty water cup with a little water in it. Make sure it's nice, clean, clear water. Clean cup, empty cup for dirty water, and of course a palette to do some of your mixing if you want to mix, or to make your washes as you wash. Remember, as you're painting, always hold your brush nicely like it's a pencil. Hold it behind the ferrule, the metal part, never too far back, never too far forward. And when you are making your washes, use clean, clear water. So I'm going to take some clean, clear water. I'm going to fill 6 of these little divots with water, so that I've got one for each of the primary and secondary colors, okay? Because I'll have 3 primaries, 3 secondaries, and that will give me a nice amount of stuff to work with. So I'm going to get started by getting my water, and then I'm going to move on by making a couple washes here as I go through my painting. So I'm going to start with my red. I'll set my palette kind of right there so you can still see it. I'm going to take my red and I'm going to mix it into my first little mixing pan there to make a red wash. And then the red wash, I'm going to just paint it into the background. Okay. The paper that we used is really nice watercolor paper, actually. So you're going to find that it'll kind of soak in nicely, but the paper won't crinkle too bad and it won't soak through. Notice how I'm kind of pulling my brush as I work. I can pull it down, I can pull it to the side, and I go kind of right up along that glue line, but the paint shouldn't bleed over too bad, because the glue is going to form a nice barrier for you, so that you won't have a lot of those colors mixing, but you'll be able to have like a more pure color right next to each other without those colors mixing a lot. Now if you want to mix colors, that you can do that, but I wanted to use the glue to keep the color mixing simple, but at the same time be able to have kind of like a stained glass look to it, almost look like a stained glass window. Alright, so I'm going to go now to my green. I'm going to use red's complementary color here and use some green and make a little green wash. And then I'm going to paint these triangles in green here. Okay, my first triangle and my second triangle. And notice that my washes are nice and even. They're not too dark on one side or too light on the other side. They're nice even washes because I've made them in my color mixing pan. Now I will say that you can go back after you've finished, if you want. You can go back and kind of wash different colors over your first colors, as long as you're being careful and thoughtful and making a good artistic choice about why you're washing one color over the top of another. Don't be sloppy. Be thoughtful and say, well, I really want to do this color mixing on this part, and be thoughtful about it. Don't just be sloppy. Okay, there's some new fresh water. To kind of follow my other example, I'm going to make yellow. And with yellow is a pretty weak color. So try your best to make sure if you do make a wash that it's got enough pigment in it that you can actually see it like that. Don't make it too watery. And if you need to, you can dip right into the pure yellow, and that might give you a nice color as well. So there's my yellow, and I'm just going to paint this in. And Mr. Lundgren, at this point, I've kind of gone over the basic skill tips about our painting. We've gone over the artistic choice and the color choices that we're working with. So the rest of this is kind of painting, just kind of filling in the shapes almost until we get up to the middle part. So you might want to fast forward at this point. Alright, now I'm at the point where I've just got my middle part left. And for the middle part, you can see I kind of used brown for the hair and the eyes, and a yellowish brown mixture for the face, black for the mouth, and red for the tongue there. So if I kind of go back, I'm going to switch brushes to a little smaller brush. I'm going to get my cup cleaned out here so I've got nice clean water. And I've got my little bitty brush. I notice how I've been drying my brush off as I go through to kind of keep my brush in control and keep my palette in control. Here's my brown. I'm going to use the brown right on the hair to make the brown hair. Okay. And up here as well. You can see I can just kind of wash right over the black glue, and that pushes it away as well. And I'm going to use a little bit of yellow, and I'm going to do what's called wet on wet watercolor mixing. I'm going to get some yellow and put it on like the skin face part. Okay, and I'm going to make sure that the yellow is kind of runny and watery. Alright, paint that around in there and use that as kind of an undercoat. And I'm going to then go back with a little bit of brown and mix that in. And notice how I'm just kind of mixing right in onto the face so that it's not really yellow, it's not really brown. I even got a little bit of green on there. Take that green out a little bit. And that green is going to keep running in because I've got it too much here. Soak that green out a little bit. There we go. That's not such a big puddle. And if you get to a point where you feel like, you know, it's too light, it's too dark, you can take your paper towel and blot out a little bit if you want. Because it is such a nice paper, you'll be able to blot that out pretty easily. Okay, with my brown here, I'm going to just get the eyes browned in because I think brown eyes look nice there. Not that blue eyes don't, or green eyes, but I think brown eyes fit. I'm going to use a little bit of black for the mouth, and then I'm going to go right back over for the tongue. Going to get the red for the tongue and paint right on there, because remember it was the ceremonial dagger shape, and on the examples we looked at it was very red. Okay, so try to stick with that. I think that with that pure red right in the middle kind of gives the painting a nice pop with that red in the middle. So once you've got it done, looks something like that. If you want to go back over some of your colors, like let's say I want to take some green, some pure green, and go back over a little bit here in that to make a little bit of shading on one side or the other, you can do that. At this point your painting might be a little bit on the drier side, but you'll be able to do a little bit of wet on wet, but you'll also be able to control it a little better. So if you want to go back and do some of that for some artistic choice, you can. At this point, make sure your brushes are washed really nice. Take your leftover paper towel and dry out all of those little divots in your mixing pan so that your palette is clean for the next person. Okay, your palette should be clean and be cleaned out so that when you put it away, it's not dirty and it's ready for the next person to clean up. Okay, make sure you clean it out really nicely. Twist it in there. If your paper towel gets too used up and you don't have enough paper towel to keep cleaning, you know, by all means grab another one or use the blotting paper towel from somewhere else, but clean it up. Should look like that when you're done. And put your supplies away nicely, and that's how you finish the Aztec Calendar Stone watercolor painting.